I recently talked about this Martirosyan story on my Patreon page. I talked about the fact that Martirosyan recently came out and has been lamenting the fact that he signed with Don King. He's claiming that Don King has done him wrong, basically, financially, and has been, unscrupulous, might be the right word to pick. Martirosyan says that when he signed with Don King, he knew it was the wrong move to make. He said that other fighters have told him about Don King. And look, it's not a secret in the world of boxing that Don King has a shady reputation. You can go to his Wikipedia page, and anybody who's been following boxing over the decades knows that Don King has been embroiled in countless instances with former fighters of his, even former business associates, and it's gone to court. Okay, and he's been accused of all kinds of different things. So this is no secret. Martirosyan knew about Don King's reputation, but he signed with him anyway. Why? Because Martirosyan was in a desperate situation financially. His dad was suffering from cancer, and Don King put a check in front of him for, I think it was $300,000, an advance, basically. But since that time, Martirosyan, again, he's basically accusing Don King of ripping him off, of taking back far more than the 300,000. Martirosyan says when he signed with Don King, he didn't read the paperwork, which is just, look, I've got the most amount of sympathy for young fighters coming up in the game who end up signing these contracts with these unscrupulous promoters or unscrupulous managers or unscrupulous whoever. And they end up getting screwed over. I've got the most amount of respect for them because these are not people with business training. But in this particular instance, Martirosyan himself admitted that he knew about Don King's reputation. So he wasn't going into this situation blind. He knew about Don King's reputation even from other fighters. So you can't say that he was just ignorant and didn't know. He did know. But I guess he was so desperate, he went ahead and did it anyway. But when you're dealing with certain types of characters, these people have no empathy. They don't look at you and say, oh, your dad's sick, let me go easy on you. No, they see a desperate person as an opportunity, because a desperate person is going to sign the contract without reading. A desperate person is going to be impressed by the paycheck that I put in front of them, and they're not going to question the small print. That's what a desperate person is going to do. And so certain types of people see that as an opportunity. They don't look upon you with sympathy. They look upon you with dollar signs in their eyes, rubbing their grubby hands together. Some people are wired that way, unfortunately. And Martirosyan, again, he knew this. He was told this. But he went ahead and did it anyway. And as desperate as you think your situation might be, when you buck up, to use an old school Caribbean South London term, when you buck up with someone like Don King, you may well end up in a worse situation than you started in. That's possible. As desperate as you are, and you think, well, I've got to take a big chance, don't take that big chance. Certainly not without reading paperwork, because you could very well end up in a worse situation than you started. And that appears to be what has happened to Martirosyan. Now, in this article right here, he's talking about how he regrets bad-mouthing Al Haymon, because he is the only fighter that I can remember who bad-mouthed Al Haymon when he left him. Now he says, I regret bad-mouthing Haymon, and I go back to him immediately. You see, this is when you find out the grass ain't always greener on the other side. But by the time you do find that out, it's usually too late. And for Martirosyan, it's probably too late. I'm going to quote him here. He was talking to On the Ropes Boxing Radio. He said, The one thing I regret in my career is bad-mouthing Al Heyman because I have nothing bad to say about him. I was just upset with the people in the company that were not treating me right, and I took it out on him. That was a mistake I made, and I want him to know that I'm thankful for him. I'm not saying that for him to take me back. I just want him to know that I'm thankful for him. I sat back and I thought about my career and my whole life and how things went, and he's one person I shouldn't have badmouthed, and I'm sorry for that. I don't need an offer from Heyman. If Heyman wants to accept me back, I would go to him immediately and I would want him in my boxing life. At the end of the day, he takes care of his fighters. He took care of me also. His fighters make good money, and a lot of people hate on the amount the fighters make because it's a lot of money, but they don't know what we go through outside of boxing, the punishment we take in our brains. We are getting brain damage, and I think we need to be paid for that instead of people outside who are running the show getting more money than the fighters. That's the thing I like about Al Heyman, that he really does care about his fighters. If he's willing to do something, I'm ready to go. And I have to say, hear, when he's talking about Heyman. Look, you can criticize Al Heyman for certain things. I've criticized Al Heyman for certain things, but it certainly does appear that this guy cares about his fighters. Even a guy like Martirosyan, who was one of the very, very few, the only fighter I can think of who's come out and spoken negatively of Heyman, he is now retracting what he previously said and saying, actually, in retrospect, Heyman treated me great and he really cares about his fighters. That is one thing I have to applaud Al Heyman for, is caring about the fighters. You see, Al Heyman came into the boxing game rich already. He was in the music industry prior, dealing with very big acts in the music industry, such as Beyonce, for example. So when he came into boxing, it's not like he was desperate for the money. He came into the boxing seeing it as a project, yes, a business venture, but not something that his whole life depended on. This is one of the reasons that some boxing promoters and managers in the past have been so greedy and so unscrupulous, because a lot of them didn't have money themselves. So they saw boxing as a dog-eat-dog, cutthroat kind of business where they're exploiting fighters so they can put food on their own families' tables. Now, of course, you had some promoters who were very successful and they were still carrying on like that, treating fighters like dirt. And those promoters are psychopaths, right? You get psychopaths in all walks of life. But you do get some, it's a minority, but some boxing promoters who are psychopaths. And anybody who knows anything about psychopathy will know that psychopaths have no empathy. Psychopaths have no conscience. They don't feel guilty. Psychopaths view people as objects. And so they will feel no way about a fighter coming to them in desperate need, in a terrible situation with a sick daughter or a terminally ill parent. And they'll look at that fighter as an opportunity to exploit somebody. That's the psychopathic mind state. And if that fighter, God forbid, gets seriously injured in the ring and can no longer fight, they'll just turn their back and go elsewhere and won't even give a damn about that fighter's welfare. That's the mind of a psychopath. You're of no use to me now. I don't give a damn about you. I'm off. You always have to beware, irrespective of psychopaths, you always have to be aware of promoters who are in financial difficulties. Because promoters who are in financial difficulties, again, even if they're not psychopaths, and most boxing promoters are not psychopaths, by the way, if they're in financial difficulties and they get desperate, they're going to be looking at the fighters and looking to cut corners. That's just how it goes. So for young fighters coming up, you always have to look into the background of the promoters and the trainers and the managers who you're signing with, particularly the managers. Let me take trainers down a notch in terms of, situations like this, because you don't usually get trainers embroiled in long-term legal disputes with fighters. It's normally managers and promoters, sometimes advisors. So you have to look into their background. You have to check their history. You have to talk to other fighters, particularly older fighters. Don't talk to the younger fighters. Talk to the older fighters who've been around a long time. And do a background check on whoever you're going to sign with. And make sure that you get your legal team, if you have one, to look over the paperwork of whatever you're signing. Make sure you do that. And if you talk to other fighters, they might be able to help you out with legal representation. They might be able to get their lawyer. If you pay their lawyer, if they're happy with their lawyer, go talk to their lawyer, and he might be able to sort you out a situation where he can look over the contract for you. Obviously, you're going to have to pay in most instances, but at least you'll be going to a lawyer who has been approved by another fighter who's in a good contractual situation. You understand? So, yeah, know who the hell you're signing with, and don't ever be in the position of Avanis Martirosyan where you know what you're doing is the wrong thing. You admitted it was, but you go ahead and do it anyway. Don't ever do that. You will live to regret it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about Avanis Martirosyan saying that he would go back to Al Haymon immediately. You know, the grass ain't always greener, man. Be careful. Be careful. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.